When I say the word battlefield, what comes to mind? Probably images of land, sea, maybe even the air, right? But here in the 21st century, there's a whole new front that's opened up. It's one that's totally invisible, it has no borders, and it's connected to pretty much every part of our daily lives. We are, of course, talking about the cyberspace battlefield.
So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll map out this new digital battlefield. Then, we'll see how nations try to build a cyber fortress. We'll look at who the main players are in this fight. Then, and this is really interesting, we'll compare cyber with traditional warfare. And finally, we'll get to the biggest question of all. What are the rules in a war that has no borders?
All right, first up, the new digital battlefield. Look, before we can even begin to talk about a cyber war, we have to get a handle on what the cyber battlefield actually is. What's it made of? Where is it? So let's just start with the basics. What even is a battlefield? I mean, we usually think of a physical place, right? A patch of ground, a piece of the ocean where fight goes down. But for the military, the definition is way, way broader.
They have a term for it, the battle space. And this isn't just about the map. The official military definition covers the total environment. We're talking everything from the weather and the terrain to things you can't even see, like the electromagnetic spectrum. It is the whole picture a commander has to see to have any chance of success. Okay, so now let's take that big idea and drop it into the digital world. The cyberspace battle space, as you'd guess, includes all the tech stuff. Networks, computers, software, you name it. But here's the absolute kicker, the part we can't forget. It also includes the people. The operators, the users, yeah, that means you and me. We are all part of the terrain.
So if we are all part of this battlefield, how in the world do you defend it? And that brings us right to our next section, building a cyber fortress. I mean, that's a fundamental problem, isn't it? How do you protect something that has no walls, no borders you can point to on a map?
Well, the core strategy that everyone uses is something called defense in depth. The idea is actually pretty simple, but it's super powerful. You don't just build one big wall and hope for the best. No, you build layers of defense, one after another. It's like a medieval castle with a moat, then an outer wall, then an inner wall. So if an attacker gets through one layer, there's another one waiting.
And what's really fascinating is how this idea scales up. It starts super small, at a personal level, with something like your home Wi-Fi router. That's layer 1. Then you get bigger. Think about corporate firewalls that protect an entire company. And then it can go all the way up to the national level with things like China's Great Firewall, which is basically an attempt to put a fortress around an entire country's internet.
And we need to be really clear about this. The stakes are incredibly high. This isn't just about protecting your email or some corporate data. No, cyber attacks can have very real, very physical consequences. Think about our critical infrastructure, the power grid, the water treatment plants, the traffic systems. All of that stuff runs on specialized computer networks. A successful attack there doesn't just crash a server. It can literally turn the lights out for millions of people.
Which, naturally, leads us to the people doing the fighting. In Section 3, we're asking, who fights this war? Because the groups out there defending cyberspace, from your local IT guy to military cyber commands, they have completely different goals, different resources, and honestly, totally different ways of thinking about the problem. And you can really boil it down to two main approaches. In the commercial world, it's all market-driven. It's a constant balancing act between risk and cost. The big question is always, what's the return on investment for this security tool? It's a battle between the chief information officer and the chief financial officer. But then you flip over to the military side. It's a totally different ballgame. It's hierarchy-driven and mission-focused. The goal isn't profit. It's completing the mission, period.
And this military mindset leads to a super structured, layered system. Just look at the US military. They don't have just one big network. They run completely separate networks based on the classification level of the information, from the unclassified NIPRNet all the way up to the top secret JWICs. This is defense in depth on a massive scale, creating these fortified digital islands to make sure that even if one part gets hit, the most important secrets stay safe.
Okay, so this is all a bit abstract, right? This invisible battlefield. So how can we get a better grip on it? Well, in our fourth section, we'll see that we could actually learn a ton about cyber by looking back at the battlefields of the past.
Let's start with the oldest domain of them all, land warfare. The big lesson from centuries of fighting on land is this: technology changes everything. Every so often you get what military folks call a revolution in military affairs. Think about the shift from the spear to the gun, or from horses to the tank. Each time a new piece of tech comes along that forces you to throw out the old playbook and write a new one. Armies had to invent new ideas like combined arms to make tanks, infantry, and artillery work together. Well, guess what? We're living through one of those revolutions right now with cyber.
Okay, next up, let's look out to the sea. The ocean actually gives us a fantastic analogy for cyberspace.
Think about it. The sea is this huge, wide open space where ships can move around largely undetected. Sound familiar? No single country can ever really control all of it, and it's full of criminal elements. Back then it was pirates, and today, hackers are pretty much the modern-day equivalent, preying on the digital shipping lanes. And just like we needed international laws to deal with piracy on the high seas, we're probably going to need them for cyberspace too.
Now let's move to a domain that not too long ago was just as new and confusing as cyber is today, the air.
You see, air power, just like cyber, is a domain that was basically created by technology. When the airplane first showed up, nobody really knew what to do with it. It took new thinkers, new theorists like the Italian general Giulio Douhet to figure out its real potential. His ideas were super controversial at the time, but they ended up shaping all of modern warfare. Cyberspace is kind of in that same spot today, waiting for its great thinkers to write the new rulebook.
And finally, let's look up to the most modern of the traditional domains, space.
The parallel here is so important. Space, just like cyber, is what we call an enabler. A war isn't just fought in space. Space is what makes modern war possible everywhere else. It gives us communications, GPS for navigation, and vital intelligence. It started out as purely military, but now it's super commercialized. And here's the key. Land, sea, and air forces are now completely 100% dependent on it. And that is exactly the role that cyber plays today.
All of this brings us to our final, and maybe the most difficult section of all. What are the rules? Because this really gets to the heart of what makes cyberspace so tricky, so challenging, as a place where conflicts happen.
And here it is. This is the core problem. Cyberspace isn't a physical place. It's a layer that exists everywhere, on top of everything else. Its boundaries are totally undefined. So when we talk about a cyber attack, what do we even mean? Is it just an attack on military computers? What about a country's banking system or its power grid? Does it include everything connected to the internet? We just don't have good, clear answers yet.
And so that leaves us with this one final, really critical question to think about. In a conventional war, victory is usually pretty clear, right? Territory is captured, an army surrenders. But in a war that's fought on a battlefield with no borders, no clear lines, and no agreed-upon rules, what does victory even look like?